When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Hey everyone, welcome to this edition of Spin Shuffle Skip on the There Can Only Be One podcast channel, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Now, if you listen to our other show, It's Not That Bad, I'm sure you have on occasion listened to us talk about certain movies. And the movie that we're talking about today, at least the soundtrack of the movie that we're talking about today, is one that, while we haven't covered it yet, I'm sure somewhere down the road we're going to be covering Last Action Hero. And here to join me in this cinematic epic, my lovely wife, Carrie. Carrie, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. You are my hero.
The Last Action podcast guest host. No? No? Bad jokes and dad jokes for days. So when we were pitching this, and I said, hey, let's do the Last Action Hero soundtrack, how excited were you for this CD?
I'm not going to lie. I gave it a spin the first time last week.
Oh, so this is late research for you.
This was all new to me. Like, I can't even remember. I'm sure I've seen the movie. What year was it from?
1993.
93. I'm sure I've seen it.
Oh, I'm sure you've seen it, and I'm sure you've probably forgotten it as well, too. So, you know, I get it. I guess it's not exactly the most memorable of Arnie movies, but it's not bad.
Is that one we're going to be covering?
Oh, I'm sure somewhere down the road we're going to be covering this.
Is it a contender?
It's definitely a contender.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, if memory serves, I think it was actually one of the possibilities when we did our worst movie nominees of the 1990s over on Keep Watch Pass. So I think we're going to have to cover this eventually. But the thing is, the 90s were phenomenal for soundtracks. Like, really, this was up there with some of the big ones at the time. When you think about The Crow and Reality Bites, there were so many great Empire Records, so many great soundtracks. And the movie didn't even have to be good for the soundtrack to really take off. I mean, just take a look at the tomatometer on this one. 40% critic score. And the thing is, we've already covered Empire Records over on Not That Bad, and that soundtrack is one that got played a ton. Pulp Fiction, I know. Airheads, yeah, absolutely, well. Right? Pulp Fiction is another movie that, no, it doesn't qualify, but the soundtrack was killer. Like, the 90s soundtracks served.
I'm sure we're going to be talking about The Crow. That being the third was the one that would qualify.
The third and the fourth.
Well, and they're making a new one, but
and the second.
The soundtrack on The Crow was phenomenal.
Here's the thing. The first Crow movie, no, it does not qualify for It's Not That Bad. The soundtrack is one of the best soundtracks of the 1990s, period, personal opinion. The second Crow movie, as a movie. Soundtrack, slayed. Absolutely slayed. The soundtrack was better than the film. Even the third one, and yes, there is a third Crow movie and a fourth Crow movie. The third one even had some phenomenal tracks on that soundtrack as well. So the Crow soundtracks always seem to exceed the movie. I do love the first movie, though. I absolutely do. I can't believe they're remaking The Crow. That's happening this year. I'm still going to go see it. I'm curious, but I really hope, and I'm not even going to say anything about the movie itself because all we have seen so far have been a couple of production stills from the film. I hope that when The Crow comes out this year, that there is a soundtrack that goes along with it that is reminiscent of the original 90s Crow soundtrack. That album would sell.
Let's be fair, though. Musically, is music as good as it was in the 90s? Whoa, I'm going to break the internet with that question, but I'm ready.
I'm going to argue yes. And I think what you could also do as well is you could make a soundtrack for The Crow that has some of the bands that are still around and still kicking. Because, I mean, hell, The Cure just finished On the Road. So there's that possibility as well. You have a ton of bands out there that are still putting out music that were on soundtracks of that era. And you have bands that maybe weren't necessarily on that soundtrack, but definitely could fill the gap. Someone like A Stabbing Westward would be phenomenal for that.
True.
Right?
Yeah,
there are a number of bands out there that would fit perfectly into a Crow soundtrack. But we're completely getting off the beaten track here because we're talking about the Last Action Hero soundtrack. And no, they're not remaking that film. But I wish they'd remake the soundtrack because the soundtrack was killer. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this soundtrack. We're going to pick 3 songs each. A spin, a shuffle, and a skip. The spin is the one that we would put on no matter what. Anytime, any day, hit play. The shuffle song is, if it's on, hey, cool, no problem. We're good. We're grooving. And then the skip is one that we would actually, much like most people did at the box office for the film, just hit skip.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Hey folks, Stefan Shirazi and Renee Richardson here from the Metallica Report.
And we are proud members of the Pantheon podcast family, where the best of music and podcasts unite.
We've got something pretty cool for you. We're giving away an exclusive Metallica merch package worth over $250.
That's a whole lot of Scary Guys, skulls, M72, and other sought-after Metallica swag. And we've made it easy for you to win. Follow and share the Metallica Report, and you're in the game. Go to pantheonpodcast.com/Metallica, enter your email, and hit that button to be entered to win.
And just like that, you're eligible for our monthly exclusive Metallica merch package.
And guess what, rockers? You can enter every month, so just do it. And while we love our global brothers and sisters, the lawyers won't let us ship outside the U.S.
But let's get into this album. Released June 8th, 1993, it peaked at number 7 on the Billboard 200 and is platinum in Canada and the US. There were 6 singles off of this soundtrack. 6 singles off a soundtrack. Let me run through it there, okay? Big Gun by AC/DC hit number 1 on the mainstream rock charts. Real World by Queensryche hit number 3 on the mainstream rock charts. What the Hell Have I from Alice in Chains hit number 19 on the mainstream rock charts. Angry Again from Megadeth hit number 18 on the mainstream rock charts and was nominated for Best Metal Performance at the 1994 Grammys. They lost to I Don't Want to Change the World, the live version by Ozzy Osbourne. Two Steps Behind by Def Leppard hit number 5 on the mainstream rock charts and the top singles charts in Canada. And of course, there was the live version of Dream On by Aerosmith. Like, think about that list of bands of just the ones that had singles out. Like, this is a killer soundtrack with some of the biggest names in rock in 1993. Like, AC/DC, like freaking one of the biggest bands of all time, AC/DC. Megadeth in their prime. Queensryche still on the good vibes that Empire had. Like, Def freaking Leppard. And the funny thing is, some of the bands that are on this soundtrack, we've already done episodes on for There Can Only Be One, including AC/DC, Def Leppard, and Anthrax. Like, holy crap, this album has everybody. And it's killer. So I know what your spin song is going to be. Oh, I know.
Oh, do you?
Oh, of course I do.
Okay.
But I'm going to let you say it. What's your spin song?
My spin song is Two Steps Behind.
I would have lost
Did
money.
not see that coming.
I would have lost bank on that. And anyone who's listened to our shows would have lost bank on that one.
What did you think it was?
Well, I'm going to let you describe why Two Steps Behind is your song.
Oh my God, I can't hear that song without wanting to play it 5 times in a row. Like, I love this song. I think it is, without a doubt, my favorite Def Leppard song.
Really?
And I know that's a big statement.
That is a bold statement
but
right there.
I love this song. Like, all I can think of is growing up and it would come on the radio and I would be like running to try and get that point where I could hit play and record and get a good version of it on my mixtape. Like, without like the radio announcer, like,
You're
in.
listening to Two Steps Behind by Def Leppard.
By Def Leppard. Here we go. Yeah. Oh my God. Love that song.
Really? That would be your favorite Def Leppard? Like, would that be your only one?
Yeah.
Really?
I truly think so. Yeah.
Over anything off of Hysteria or Pyromania or Adrenalize?
Yeah.
That's a bold statement. And the funny thing is, too, there were 2 versions of this song on their retroactive CD. So we actually got to talk about this CD and these songs over on that episode of There Can Only Be One. So please, by all means, go listen to that. Two Steps Behind I'm not going to lie, it's a great song. It's an absolutely great song. And it was in the contention for my spin pick. But it wasn't even my pick off of that album. On the There Can Only Be One. For that one, I ended up going with From the Inside, which has a much more Celtic feel off that album. By the way, Retroactive is a phenomenal Def Leppard album. No, I thought we were going to have a matchup on our spin pick because my spin is Poison My Eyes from Anthrax. This is one of my favorite of all time John Bush era Anthrax songs. This song slays. This song should have been on Sound of White Noise or at the very least on Stomp 442. Poison My Eyes kills. And of songs that they had released on soundtracks around this time, because keep in mind, they also had Looking Down the Barrel of a Gun, which was the cover of a Beastie Boys song on the Beavis and Butthead movie soundtrack. This song is their better soundtrack song. So now we get to my shuffle pick. And I'm actually surprising myself with my shuffle pick. Because
What is it?
You know that some of my favorite bands of all time are on this. And of course, Anthrax was my spin pick. No problems there. But my shuffle pick is Angry Again from Megadeth.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
Keep in mind, and again, this is personal opinion, right? Remember, there are no right or wrong answers, just her answers and my answers. These are all based on personal opinion. Megadeth, around this time, to me, musically and songwriting wise, were at their peak. Countdown to Extinction and Euthanasia, to me, are their best studio albums. And this is around that time. And Megadeth is cooking. Like, absolutely cooking. And freaking love this song. Freaking love this song. And I know other people do too, because as I was doing my research and listening to these songs again on Spotify, and again, these are just Spotify play numbers. Angry Again is the most played song off this soundtrack, followed only by Big Gun by AC/DC. And everything else is much further down the list. Now, again, these are just Spotify play stats. And no, not every song is available on Spotify. Poison My Eyes by Anthrax is not available on Spotify, at least in Canada. I don't know if you can hear it in the States, but not in Canada. But people clearly like Angry Again. And yes, admittedly, other songs will appear on other albums, like Two Steps Behind on Retroactive. People are probably going to listen to it off Retroactive. But to me, Angry Again, killer song. So over to you. What's your shuffle pick?
I like to swim.
Oh, a little bit of
Fishbone.
fishbone.
Okay, so a little story on my history. I went to England and went shopping on Carnaby Street, and every second shop was like a rock junction for the old Ottawa kids, right? It was a rock shop. Every second store on Carnaby was a rock shop, and so I bought a bunch of T-shirts, like super cheap. Like I bought like a Sepultura and Cannibal Corpse and Fishbone. And so bought up all of these T-shirts that, if I listened to one song, if I listened to the album, then I was buying up these T-shirts because they were cheap. It seemed to me they were reasonably priced. Anyway, so fast forward to my first day of high school, and I was wearing my Fishbone T-shirt on my first day of high school. And I remember that was the conversation starter between me and my group of best friends. And, like in high school, right, I hung with what the cool thing about my high school, it wasn't cliquey, right? So you've got like the drama kids and the footballers and the punks and the rockers, like everyone got along,
so it's the reverse PCU,
which was phenomenal. Right. But so I remember I was wearing my Fishbone T-shirt. I hear, "Hey, Fishbone." I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, well, like we got to talking like about music, and it was just so cool. And so that was really the kind of like introductory, like, I don't know. It's just, what? Fishbone is just, they're so fun. They're so groovy. They're so funky. They're so different from, from the norm. And I think that's kind of what I've always been drawn to. Aw, Jay.
Right.
Yeah. So I love different and unique sounds, and they bring it.
What is it about someone wearing a band's T-shirt that's almost like an instant conversation starter? And because every time we go to like a festival or any kind of concert, you're almost like shirt watching for the crowd, until the band comes on. You're like, "Oh, hey, he's wearing this shirt. Oh, that's a really, really cool shirt." And not the ones that they're selling at the merch booth, because apparently you don't wear the shirt of the band you're going to see. Don't be that guy. PCU rules. Gutter is a tool. But really, tell me that you see someone wearing the shirt of one of your favorite bands, you're not instantly like, "That guy's cool."
Rock on the Range 2015, I posed for a picture with like, one guy had an Anthrax tattoo, one had like the quintessential rock vest with Anthrax on it. I had my I had like my Knot Man giving the finger, which even wearing that to a concert, Joey Belladonna was like, "Oh my God, how long ago was that T-shirt purchased?" I'm like, yeah. Been a fan for a while.
Yep. Literally wear the shirt of the band that you love. You'll find your people. But Swim is my skip pick.
Oh.
I find this song sludgy.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the...
I know you like your sludge.
I love it.
I know you like your sludge. It's just not me. And it's funny. Going into this, I thought I knew what my skip song was going to be. And then I heard this one. And I'm like, oh, yeah. No, I did. I wasted battery power on this song trying to fast forward past it when I had it in a tape deck. So
wow.
And again, nothing against Fishbone. I'm just not a fan of this song at all. So sorry. I didn't mean to poo-poo on your Fishbone story.
Well, it's a good thing I wasn't wearing my Fishbone T-shirt, first day of college.
Right? I'd be like, oh, she's wearing the shirt of that song from like Last Action Hero soundtrack.
It was all about timing. At least I had my group of friends in high school.
Right. Okay, so that means it's up to you to close this out. What's your skip pick?
Oh, you know what? I'm sure that I'm going to break your heart just like you just broke mine. But I am skipping What the Hell Have I Done?
What the Hell Have I from Alice in Chains? It's of the two Alice in Chains songs that are on here, I think this is probably my favorite of the two.
Oh,
But neither of them were going to be elevated to either skip or shuffle level.
horribly repetitive and just like, I like Alice in Chains. I like them a lot, but holy crap. I don't think I've ever, is this song off of another album? Because I don't think I've heard it. And it was just like, kind of like, what is this? Like,
No, but keep in mind, like, some of these songs are going into their self-titled album era, and you know the cassette or the CD cover that had the dog on the cover, and I was not a big fan of that album. I really wasn't, because again, it was a little sludgy.
see, that part didn't even bother me. It was just like, it actually kind of annoyed me. I'm like, what? Like, okay, is it over? I just stopped it, moved on to the next song. I also noted Cock the Hammer by Cypress Hill.
Yeah, that was up there potentially with my I was also considering, and I hate to say this because they are literally one of my favorite bands of all time. I was considering Real World by Queensryche
For your skip?
for my skip.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I was actually, when I was first listening through, I was going to pick that song for either my spin or shuffle, and then I'm like, no, I can't.
2 steps behind.
Yeah.
No, I get it. But no, I think the thing with Real World for me is now, don't get me wrong. Michael Kamen was one of the greatest composers of his time, especially when it came to working with metal bands. Like, Michael Kamen and metal music were like a gift made in heaven. But it's the cinematic break in this, and it feels, coming out of it, it feels almost a little out of tempo with Chris DeGarmo's guitar work. And I'm just like, did we really need that break in? And I understand that break is actually in the movie as well. I think if you took that little orchestral cinematic section out of Real World, much better song.
You know, it's fascinating, though. It makes me want to rewatch the movie to see how these songs were utilized.
Oh, you know what this means. You know what this means.
Next on...
Don't tease me with a good time, woman.
It's not that bad.
Well, I guess now if you see that this movie is coming up on the coming soon page, you'll know that she gave in and we're doing this. All right, Gary, thank you so much. Now, before we go, please remind our listeners what your spin, shuffle, and skip picks are.
I am spinning 2 steps behind like at least 5 times in a row when I hear that song. Swim is my shuffle, and my skip is What the Hell Have I? Because what the hell am I listening to? Alice in Chains.
All right. Now, keep in mind, too, before I give you guys my picks again, if you go to our website at notthatbadcast.com, go to the episode page for this episode, and you will actually see a posted Spotify playlist of the soundtrack to this movie. Now, again, at least in Canada, not all of the songs are available to be played. I don't know if it's the same thing for different countries, but go to the website anyways and give the songs that you can a spin. Listen to the music and chime in as well. Let us know in the comments on that page what songs would have made your list. Like my list, which had Poison My Eyes from Anthrax as my spin song, Angry Again by Megadeth as my shuffle, and Swim from Fishbone is my skip. Sorry, Carrie. Sorry. Please don't disown me.
Yeah, well, in high school, you would not have been in my clique.
It's just one song. All right. Thank you so much. And to you, our listeners, you guys know the drill. If there is an album that you want us to cover on this show, or an artist that you want us to cover on, there can only be one. Hit us up on social media at OnlyOneCast, or go to our website at notthatbadcast.com. And while you're there, check out all of our other shows, because we got a lot to give you guys. Until next time, she's Carrie, I'm Jay. You guys are awesome. This is Spin Shuffle Skip on the There Can Only Be One podcast channel, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Take care.
It's NFL draft season, and that means it's time to start thinking about fantasy football. FantasyPoints.com features industry-leading experts and prognosticators using proprietary hand-charted data to help you score more fantasy points. FantasyPoints.com is the place to go for whatever kind of fantasy football you play. Whether you play fantasy football, daily fantasy sports, or do a little bit of everything, Fantasy Points has the meticulously researched content to guide you to victory. And why wait for the fall? Fantasy Points also covers the new spring football league, the UFL. Join the guru, John Hansen, Scott Barrett, Joe Dolan, and other massive names in the fantasy football universe with an exclusive offer. Use code Pantheon for 15% off any Fantasy Points package, including the all-in package, with access to every article, tool, and data nugget that Fantasy Points has to offer. That's FantasyPoints.com and code Pantheon for 15% off at Fantasy Points. FantasyPoints.com, code Pantheon. Score more fantasy points.